Welcome back to video 3, Writing Queries in Aginity Pro. Once I establish my connections and am comfortable browsing through the databases, I can start executing queries using Aginity Pro. I've already set up 4 different worksheets for each database to show you some examples of writing queries. We'll start with the Netezza worksheet here. 2 different things. If you're used to writing SQL, I am just going to select star from a table, landing dim location, in the AMP demo landing database. Each individual database has subtly different syntax, either fully qualified or not qualified when executing. Here with Netezza, if I use the database dot schema or double dots to the table name, it doesn't really matter what I pick here on the database. I can navigate across that, so you can see I'm in Darwin prod land. And when I go to execute a cursor, I have 3 different options. I can execute at the cursor, which will run from wherever your cursor is located to the semicolon. I can run all parts of the script in a sequence, which will run this statement, then go to the next statement and run next statement in a serial fashion. I can also run the entire script as a batch. And in that case, you'll see the cursor run, and it will run all things as one, with the final result set being your output window. So 3 options when running. So if I run just at the cursor and hit return on the fully qualified, you'll see I'll return my 100 rows, and I can click on the result tab to start looking at the data returned. Each one of these is sortable, so I can click on the actual column name, sort it ascending or descending, and over to the right, I can actually filter or contain based on that. If I want to reduce the result set, I can merely drag a column off the grid and remove it from the result set that I'm seeing. If I re-execute the query, that will come back in the second time around. I can right-click and export the grid to CSV, which will allow me to take this output and move it over to an Excel spreadsheet or any of my other options. On the Output tab, it will show me how long the query took, whether or not it was successful, and how many rows were returned. You can see I'm placing a limit just to prevent a large data set from being returned for the sake of this demo. In this particular case, I'm going to query the same table, landing dim location, but in a non-fully qualified fashion. And if I try to run it, I should get an error message, because in this particular case, that table does not exist. But if I navigate to the AMP demo landing database up at the top of my query screen and then run, it should work just fine. And you can see I have 50 rows. I changed my limit to make sure that I wasn't doing any trickery for you. Click on result and I can see that as well. Briefly, the other tabs here talk about connections to the other databases. Basically work the same way. With Snowflake though, you have to qualify it with the schema name in front of the table. With Redshift, similarly, you can use the database name, the schema name, and the table. And then non-fully qualified, I can pick the database and leave just the table name as well. And a lot of times, I will use my object browser to navigate into specific databases and choose the database that I want to query against. My schema public, drill into my tables, and I'll see my table called batter stats. Okay, a lot of times right now for the beta version, we don't have complete drag and drop, but I can copy the path and I can paste it here and remove the part saying that to the actual location, and I can run that query. Again, if I look at the result, you will see the output as well. Finally, for Hive, works much the same way. You have a fully qualified with the database and the table, and a not fully qualified as long as I pick the database in there. I'll leave you with one final note. The keep connection alive is on some databases, after the execution of each query, it will disconnect, causing a delay. So every time you reissue a query, it will use your connection information and reconnect to the database. By saying keep connection, it will keep that connection alive, so you're not reconnecting, disconnecting after every query. Thank you.